What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another episode of NBA Weekly. I'm your host, Pee Wee the Plug, the number one Knicks fan in the world, and it's time to talk about the trade. I've been getting non-stop questions since Thursday about this Ben Simmons, James Harden trade. What do I think of Ben going to Brooklyn? Do I think the 76ers are coming out of the East? Who won the trade? We have a lot of questions to answer. Before we do that, I do want to say to my new viewers, if you like this type of content on a consistent basis, make sure you subscribe to the Pee Wee the Plug channel. And all my people who've been here before and are familiar with me, make sure you hit that like button so we can get those likes up and get these videos to more viewership. First reaction, first thoughts. It's a sign of relief for me. You know, I've felt like that this saga with Ben Simmons of Philadelphia has been, dragged out from the playoffs last summer into the offseason, into the early beginning of this season, the preseason, into the regular season, and then all the way dragged until the trade deadline. I am a guy who I will say owes Daryl Morey an apology because I did think that he was taking too long, and I was asking myself constantly, what is he doing? Like, why isn't he making a move? He needs to hurry up and get it over with. His patience got him a Hall of Fame guard in James Harden, and that's a reward to his patience. So shout out to Daryl Morey first and foremost, and congratulations to him for sticking to his gut and not listening to the noise. I think he needs a bunch of credit for that because I definitely was a person that was saying the longer you wait, the less you're going to get because nobody has seen Ben and he listened to himself and he ended up getting exactly what he wanted, which is James Harden. That's a lesson to GMs and people running teams. Not that I think this is necessarily the perfect trade and that they're going to win 3 titles in a row, but ultimately he got what he wanted, which is the most important thing. And if he would have listened to us, the media, the noise, he probably would have made a trade sooner and never would have got his guy. So shout out to Daryl Morey for that. But that's the first thing, is that I'm just glad this is over with. We don't have to wake up anymore talking about Ben Simmons in Philadelphia and when is he going to come back and the team without that's done. And then also the James Harden thing. He didn't resign with the Nets. We know the speculation started coming out in the latter weeks, and now we can put that to bed. And the trade deadline is over. So we just got these two guys out of their bad situations. No more lingering and thinking about what's going to happen and these rumors and these mock trades. No. Harden is in Philly. Ben is in Brooklyn. It's over and done. Those are my first initial thoughts. Now, the full breakdown of the trade is that the Brooklyn Nets are sending James Harden and Paul Millsap to Philadelphia in exchange for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round picks. Out of the gate, first reaction, it feels like Brooklyn got a lot from Philly, right? You know what I mean? They got the role players. They got a nice young player who in the future sense should make Brooklyn more of a complete team. And then they also got 2 first-round picks that could help them make another move into a pivot maybe this offseason. They were trying to hit some home runs at the buzzer beater, the trade deadline. Names like Miles Turner got linked to them. That could still be on the table for them in the summer to really boost this roster at the beginning of next season and have them looking like the favorites coming out of the East. Right now, specifically, obviously, Philly gets James Harden probably sooner than later. He'll probably be one of the first out of the main guys to play. I'm almost sure he'll play before Ben Simmons. I like it for various reasons. Like I stated, they both get out of the situations that they're in. But for Brooklyn, I like the fact that they're getting a guy in Ben Simmons that they'll be able to put in a situation that is going to comfort him. Being with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, that takes that scoring and offensive load and expectation off of his plate. I feel like Ben Simmons has been a guy who has been looked at in Philadelphia as their number 1 pick. It's him and Joel's team. They were battling for who team it was for the last few years. It was somewhat bit of a confusion, even though Joel over the last year or so, or last 2 years, has made it clear that Philadelphia was and is his team. But the expectation, because of who Ben Simmons is on paper, made it feel like he had to do certain things offensively that his game isn't predicated to do. I think playing in Brooklyn with 2 certified professional scorers, it allows him to ease into a role that makes him full-on comfortable, right? Where he can be the defender on a defensive side that can guard literally 1 through 5, be disruptive, create transitional easy baskets for the Nets. And then offensively, he can be a switch a Swiss Army knife who can do a lot of different things, set screens, be a roller, push the ball in transition, an incredible passer, almost in a Draymond Green-esque role where he can be extremely valuable without averaging 20 points a game and having to shoot the ball 15 times a game. I do think Ben still needs to prepare himself to start shooting the basketball. Whether you're a first option or the fifth option, you have to be able to take shots if defenses are going to give it to you, because it just opens up everything for the rest of your teammates and even yourself. So he has to get over that mental hurdle of not shooting and not trying to get into the foul line, because the more aggressive he is, the more things open up for himself and his teammates. And on top of that trio of Ben Simmons, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant, you also put around them Joe Harris, who we haven't seen in a while for the Nets, Seth Curry, who they got from Philadelphia. Those are two sharpshooters and marksmen who are going to keep the floor spaced tremendously. And we can see a lot of different lineups that they can run where Ben is playing the 5, KD is at the 4, Joe Harris at the 3, Kyrie and Seth in the backcourt. And that's full-on slaughter for any defense that they're going to face. They got Drummond, which is an inside presence that I think that they've been missing for a very long time since they put this trio together. They've been trying to work things out with LaMarcus, who we know is kind of on the last leg of his career. They had DeAndre Jordan. That didn't work out. Nicholas Claxton, who's been a little bit youthful at times for them, but has shown the ability to do a couple of different things. But I think they've kind of gone off the Nicholas Claxton train a little bit, and I even saw his name being put in trade rumors. Now, I think this just makes them an overall greater, better team. And then with the 2 first-round draft picks that they received from Philadelphia in the summer, I could definitely see them trying to pair that up with somebody to get a Miles Turner type return, a big who can protect the rim and then also keep the floor spaced out for the lineups with Ben Simmons. So that, to me, makes them super lethal. But it doesn't make them the winner of the trade, just because a lot has to go their way, and it's a lot that has to be seen for this to work out. And on the flip side with the Philadelphia 76ers, it's kind of the same thing where they made this trade to win a championship. And it's going to be hard to judge this trade right off the bat without one of these teams winning a championship, because that's what the moves was made for. I do like the fact that they got James Harden, which is the guy that they wanted. You're repairing him with Daryl Morey. He has shown that he plays his best basketball under Daryl Morey. You also get rid of the Ben Simmons thing in the clubhouse, which I think kind of takes that cloud over the rest of the team. What I don't particularly like with the Philadelphia 76ers is that they did have to give up a Seth Curry. I feel like Seth Curry is an extremely instrumental piece to winning teams. His shooting, his ability to play without the basketball, he kind of always knows his role. He can start, he can come off the bench. I think that hurts them. I like the fact that they were able to keep Matisse Thybulle, because they did need some type of perimeter defense. Because say what you want about Ben Simmons, but that's where he was elite at for Philadelphia. And Matisse Thybulle allows them to still have that perimeter defender. He's also with Tyrese Maxey, a young player who's said countless times he's willing to play whatever role and do whatever they need for him to do, whether that's coming off the bench, starting. I also think that the fact that he's not a true number 1 point guard allows him to now play next to James Harden, when he can play off the catch and shoot a little bit, and it gives them a little bit of a dual backcourt where it just isn't as predictable. And I think that, for me, is the scariest thing about adding James Harden to the Philadelphia 76ers, is you don't want to become a predictable offensive team. I think they've had very high success this year with Joel Embiid, despite not having Ben Simmons on the floor, is because running through Joel Embiid makes their offense a lot less predictable. I understand they're predictable from the sense that Joel Embiid is going to have the basketball, but it's the type of ways that he has the basketball and the type of places you can put him around the floor. I've watched the 76ers, and I've seen him have it on a low block doing his thing, commanding a double, triple team at times. He can kick it out to a Seth Curry or a Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, and they're knocking down shots at a high clip. I've also seen Joel have it at the top of the key and operate there. I've seen them do pick and rolls, and he's had mismatches. I've seen him get the ball on defense and take it into the open court in transition, pick and pop, get it at the elbow. He can have it all over the floor which allows them to be a lot less predictable. In the past, James Harden teams really have James Harden at the top of the key doing his ISO, and the screens come and they try to get a mismatch for James Harden to dance on his on his defender, and either get an easy layup, step back three, or he's kicking it out to a shooter. The problem with that is it becomes too simplistic for the Philadelphia 76ers because you do have Joel Embiid. And in the past, just saying in the past, not saying this is exactly what he's going to do with Philadelphia, especially early on, James Harden has been reluctant to be involved when he doesn't have the basketball. He's shown a disinterest as a player, and just with his body language and his movement. The best offenses have constant movement, and I don't think I've seen James Harden be involved in that in a very long time. He had the ball in his hands 95% of the time to 98% of the time in Houston. When he got to Brooklyn, Kyrie automatically said, "Hey, I'm gonna play shooting guard. James Harden will be our point." The ball got in his hands, and so now in Philadelphia, what we've seen for a majority of the year, things go through Joel Embiid. One of my key questions is, how does James Harden fit when he doesn't have the basketball in his hands? Or are they going to change the entire dynamic of their offense and the success we've seen from Joel Embiid to now just having James Harden have the ball in his hands 95 to 98% of the time, and Joel Embiid just becomes a screener who they're trying to get mismatches with for James Harden or himself? Because if that's what they're going to do, then my confidence in this trade for them really goes down. I think to get the full what am I trying to say? To get the full effect of Joel Embiid, you have to take advantage of the double teams and the triple teams sometimes that he could command. And the best thing about him is his decision making this season, the fact that nobody can stop him. The centers are either too slow, they're too small, or they're both small and slow and they just can't stay with him. Or there's perfectly nothing wrong with the center and they're capable of just staying in front of him and contesting the shots, but it just doesn't matter because he's just been on a different level. And if you put James Harden in that, somebody is affected. Somebody's affected. The best thing about Philadelphia is that James Harden will be motivated because he's going to hear a lot of the chit-chat in the background about, oh, he's a baby. He forced his way out of Houston. Then he forces his way out of Brooklyn and hasn't even played a full year with them. He gave up on his homies Kyrie and Kevin Durant, blah, 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 blah. He's going to come and be fully motivated for sure. We know that. He's going to be fully motivated to play his best basketball out of the gate. That's why I'm saying this trade cannot be graded initially out of the gate. I'm not going to be a guy who the first 5 games, if Philadelphia looks bad, I'm going to shit on this trade and say, oh, man, look, I told you. Because this is a team that if they get it together in the playoffs, everything that I say won't matter. I'm judging this off of the success at the highest level because that's what this trade was put together for. Daryl Morey went to Philadelphia to win a championship. That's what they brought Doc Rivers for. That's what they signed all of these players for. That's what they just made this trade for. So I don't think this is a trade that we should overreact to, whether they come out dominant, whether they come out sluggish and it's ugly. This is something that we have to judge when it comes playoff time, and that's my biggest question about the Philadelphia 76ers and why I wasn't never a big James Harden guy to go there. Not because I don't think James Harden is good, not because I want the 76ers to fail and not have success, but you gave up key role players who played a big part in your success this early part of the year. And I think those are the most instrumental things. Even when you look at the teams from last year that made it to the finals, the Suns, and even the Bucks. You look at the role players who played a big part, like Mikal Bridges, Cam Payne had moments with the Suns. Even Cam Johnson, Dario Saric. You look at the Bucks. PJ Tucker was one of the most important parts of that team overall. Bobby Portis had his moments. Even Brent Forbes. The role players are the most important part of the championship teams, unless you're the Golden State Warriors, who had Steph, Kevin, Clay, Draymond, and Iguodala. Unless you're that team. And when I look at the Philadelphia 76ers right now, I see Joel Embiid. I see James Harden. We need time to see that mesh and see how they're going to make that offense operate in a sense where they both can be comfortable, but you're still getting that full effect of Embiid. But then I look at the surrounding role players and the outside shooting, which we know is severely needed to put around a big like Joel, and then also for James Harden. And I'm not surely convinced. I know the buyout market is going to be a place where they can try to bolster up that shooting, but right now we're talking about Danny Green, who's been one of the most inconsistent shooters in recent playoff history. Tyrese Maxey isn't necessarily proven, but I'm hoping him well. Tobias Harris can be a streaky catch and shoot guy. Matisse Thybulle isn't really the best catch and shoot, and sometimes you have to take him off the floor, as valuable as his defense is, because of his shooting and his free throw shooting. A little bit similar to Ben Simmons in a sense. More just the accuracy. He's at least willing to take the shots. I give him that. So that's going to be extremely interesting. And then also the backup center position. They've been trying the Paul Reed thing. You got Charles Bassey. Or what are they going to do with Paul Millsap? Maybe he plays some small ball five. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered for Philly with this trade, because they gave up so much that it creates a lot of holes that I think could stop them from ultimately being that team that they're trying to be as far as this year is concerned. Brooklyn, the same type of questions could be poised, just because you don't know when Ben Simmons is going to come back. The Kyrie situation where he has to play one game and sit out the home game. KD's injury. They are on one of the worst losing streaks in recent NBA, or maybe the worst losing streak of this year in recent memory. But I can say for Brooklyn, when all of that is together, when you have Kyrie constantly playing, when you have Ben Simmons back fully, and when KD is healthy, you have a lot around them. It's a lot of shooting from Patty Mills, Joe Harris, Seth Curry. You got some versatility with Ben. You got some size with Drummond. You got some vets like LaMarcus Aldridge. There's a lot that they can work with. And then even when the summer comes and the offseason, you again have some first round picks and some movable contracts that you can attach with the picks to go and try to get another home run hit that can make this team, even better. So that's how I feel about the trade. I think this is something we're going to have to grade and judge very, very slowly and have patience with. I think a lot of people instantly are going to be thirsty to have an opinion about this trade the first time James Harden plays. If James Harden struggles and has 12 points, there's going to be a lot of people trying to shit on the 76ers. If James Harden comes out and have 40, obviously you're going to have 76ers fans trying to come out and shit on the haters. I think this is something that you got to take very slow, because the ultimate goal for this trade was to put Philadelphia in a position to win the ultimate thing. Same thing with Brooklyn. Brooklyn's goal is still to win a championship, and now it's even a little bit more serious for KD, because I'm sure him and Kyrie want to throw it back in James Harden's face like, this is what you left. You know what I mean? This is what you left. And the other interesting parts is just the dynamics of all these relationships. Joel Embiid, had a post-game interview where he was talking about Ben Simmons having his own team was more important to him. That was a weird thing to say, in my opinion, just because he's being traded to the Nets. This is definitely not Ben Simmons' team, and I don't think that was the driving force. I think it was just the overall treatment, the toxic environment, and the fact that he was humiliated, which is a problem within himself on that last part. And then the James Harden thing, Kevin Durant not picking him at All-Star. I know it's a little feels silly and a little petty, but I do think it's something there where, even in the questions they were asking him, he was saying everybody got what they want. Blake Griffin was interviewed and was like, yeah, we're happy that we got what we want and that we're a better team now. And it just feels very weird where it was like, even a report that Kevin Durant and James Harden wasn't communicating over the last couple months how they usually do. I think we may have a rivalry brewing, and this would be a nice matchup. Like, imagine, because the Nets are on a losing streak, Kevin Durant is out, Kyrie can only play half of the games, they start to fall out, the 76ers start to continue to go up, and they have a higher seed. Imagine if we can get a first round matchup, Brooklyn Nets versus Philadelphia 76ers. Could be very, very interesting. That's all, man. That's all I got. I'm happy for Philadelphia 76ers fans. Like I said, the only thing I really had against them getting James Harden is just maybe not chasing the name. I think right now I'm stuck on teams chasing names instead of fit. and what value and what they actually need. Not saying that they don't need James Harden, because I get it, every team could use James Harden, but it's just the past of what we've seen. When things don't truly operate around James Harden, there's a lack of motivation, there's a lack of involvement, there's him standing at the hash line and out of plays, not fully involved. I've never seen James Harden really be involved in a full offense in a way where he can be effective without the ball. If he doesn't have the ball, he's just disengaged and is a non-threat, because he's not cutting, he's not moving, he's not setting a screen, he's not coming off a screen. It's him with the basketball, waiting for a pick and roll and isoing and step backing and trying to create a play at the last second. And I just don't think that that's what Philadelphia needed. I would have much rather preferred them get a guy like C.J. McCollum, who would have came in, knew he was second fiddle, knew he was the second option, and just took his opportunities on the perimeter when they came throughout the game, and could still play and be effective off the ball with Joel Embiid, as effective as he would be with the ball in certain situations. But they got James Harden, so we're going to see how it works out, and I'm hoping them the best. But I am watching with my eye very, very close. This is NBA Weekly. I am Pee Wee the Plug. As always, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Shout out to my Brooklyn Net fans and my 76ers fans. Let me know y'all thoughts and emotions in the comments, because I know this is emotional time for both franchises. As always, I'm out. Peace.